You're watching Drink This Tonight, and tonight we're starting a brand new series about mixology for absolute beginners. We wanted to do a series of videos explaining to beginners how to get started in cocktails. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be hard. We're going to start today by making an old-fashioned, which is probably the simplest of all cocktails. You don't need any fancy ingredients, you don't need a lot of money or special equipment. You can do it with what you have right at home. The first ingredient that you're going to need, obviously, is alcohol. Traditionally, an old-fashioned is made with whiskey, either rye or bourbon. But don't let that stop you from using whatever you like. You can take that and substitute it for gin, rum, scotch, whatever it is you have, whatever it is you like. The purpose is to have a template that you can customize to your liking. The next ingredient you'll need is bitters. If you don't make a lot of cocktails, this is the one ingredient you might not have lying around the house. But that's okay, it's available at most liquor and grocery stores across the country and throughout the world. The brand you're probably going to see is Angostura bitters, and that's perfect for this drink. Pick up a bottle of that, or experiment with any of the various types of bitters. They're like spices, and that's basically what they are. You take high-proof liquor and you concentrate spices and aromatics into a little bottle like this, and you can use it in small amounts to add a little bit of flavor and extra something to a cocktail. You'll also want to think about sweetening your drink. Typically in an old-fashioned, this is done with a sugar cube. But if you don't have a sugar cube, you can use just a teaspoon of granulated sugar. Another really nice trick is to make simple syrup, which is a 50-50 combo of water and sugar. Mix it together and add it to your drink, and it actually dissolves a little bit easier. You can also use other sweeteners too. Agave nectar, maple syrup, even molasses work really well, depending on the application. As far as equipment goes, you're going to need something to stir this drink in. An old-fashioned is a stirred drink, it's not shaken. I like to use this mason jar. It has a nice wide mouth and it's tall enough that I can really kind of stir it up pretty well. But you can really use any glass. Nobody says you need anything fancy for this. If you have one of these, a bar spoon, it's really nice for stirring, but it's not required. You can get by with a kitchen spoon, which is what I'm going to be using today. When you're mixing cocktails, just like in baking, precision is very important when you're measuring your ingredients. Otherwise, you can totally throw off the balance of the cocktail. I have a little OXO Good Grips measuring cup here that I use. They also sell jiggers as well, but if you don't have that, even a shot glass works pretty well. 1.5 to 2 of these is about how much alcohol you would need in order to make an old-fashioned. You can also use a regular old measuring cup too. A quarter cup is equivalent to about 2 ounces. So we're going to start by adding a sugar cube to the mixing glass. Next we're going to take our bitters and kind of pour it over the sugar cube, just like that. The next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of water in order to dissolve the sugar. And if you're using simple syrup, you can kind of just skip this whole step and add a quarter ounce of simple syrup. But we're going to take this and just kind of stir it up. If you have a muddler, it works really nicely here to just kind of crush it. I'm just going to use my spoon because I want to show you that it doesn't take anything fancy. When you're making cocktails, you want to pour the most expensive ingredients last. In our case, it's bourbon. We're going to go with 2 ounces. You don't have to use the most expensive bourbon either. While you're learning, you can use whatever you got on hand, even the cheap stuff. We're just going to add it to the glass. Remember to do all of this before you have any ice in there. That way, while you're mixing it, it doesn't get diluted. So at this point, we need to stir the cocktail with ice. The ice does a couple things. One, it cools the drink down so it's pleasant to the taste. 2 is it dilutes it, so it's not as strong when somebody goes to drink it. Most cocktails are definitely lower proof than, drinking like straight whiskey or something like that. And it comes from the ice mostly. That's where all the dilution comes from. So whenever you're making a drink that doesn't have any citrus or any fruit or anything like that, if it's just straight alcohol, it's almost always going to be stirred. And just rotate it like that. Depending on your ice, you might have to stir for a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, but I usually go for about 40 stirs with my ice. And that's coming straight out of my freezer. I don't have any fancy ice or anything like that. And again, I'm using a different spoon than I normally would, but as you can see, this stirs it just fine. So at this point, we need to actually serve the drink. If you have a strainer like this, it would be the time to use it, but I'm going to show you that you don't even really need one. I'm just going to take it and attempt to pour it as best as I can without letting the ice cubes in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And that's how you make an old fashioned. Some people like to serve this on the rocks, but I prefer not to because I find that the ice dilutes it a little bit too quickly and you don't actually get to taste the drink, you get to taste a lot of water. It can be nice served over a big ice cube, and they sell 2" by 2" silicone molds that can be used to make these in your freezer. But I decided to forego it today. If you do end up putting ice in here, make sure that you stir it a little bit less so that it doesn't get as diluted before the ice cube goes in. Anyway, this is really meant to be a template, a jumping off point for you to try making your own drinks. Start here and see where it takes you. Substitute something else for the bourbon. Try a different kind of bitters. You really can't go wrong when it's this simple. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you really liked it, make sure to subscribe. And remember to tune in next time. We're going to do citrus.